The other thing I want to show you here is these beautiful blades, as they're known, made of obsidian, the volcanic glass called obsidian. Now they come from a site called Tel Arpachaya, whether I've got that pronounced right I don't know, but they date to the period known as the Halef. This was a later phase of the Neolithic, but these people were almost certainly descendants of the Göbekli builders. Tel Arpachaya is in the area of northern Syria, and it was a centre for the Obsidian trade. The Göbekli builders almost certainly were in control of the obsidian that was coming out of the areas around Lake Van and just to the north in the Armenian highlands, and this is where this comes from. These obsidian almost certainly come from the area around Lake Van or the Armenian highlands, and the Halef people had long heads, what they call dolichocephalic heads, long heads, but they also deformed their heads as well. I showed you a picture yesterday of a Halef head that was deformed, and the reason they did this was to mimic their ancestors who their traditions said had long heads. And even though they had long heads themselves, they thought, hold on, shouldn't it be longer than that? And that's why I think that they extended the heads to actually try and make themselves look like what they considered their ancestors appeared like. But this was only amongst an elite group, and they were in control of the obsidian. Obsidian was so highly prized because it's so beautiful. I mean, and the way it feels, and it's so much sharper than flint. I mean, it's one of the most sharpest things in the world. I mean, you can make surgical knives out of obsidian. In fact, there's a famous story from the 1960s that one of the earliest revivalists in flint knapping had to have an operation, and he actually insisted that the surgeons use obsidian because it actually cuts pure, whereas metal, like razor blades or whatever, actually serrates an edge and is much more difficult to heal. A cut made from obsidian will heal much quicker because it's so much sharper. It's just absolute straight line. So, yeah.
What did they use to fashion the tools, the obsidian tools?
What you mean? What did they? They would have used something harder. Well, to create these, they would almost certainly have used something like a pick handle or something that would have been smacked down onto a core, what they call a core, which would be like a larger piece that would shear off what they call, these are, they're flakes. They're not flakes, they're actually blades. Blades are the long ones, more than 2 to 1 in length of width, are known as a blade. And these would be sheared off with a pick and then finished off in this way. A very, very skilled business, obviously, knapping in this manner. And because the thing is that it's not just a case of you knocking this one off, you've got to do it correct with the ones before to get exactly what's known as a prismatic blade, which is exactly what these are. That up the top, is the one on the left, is actually a core. That's one of the cores that they use to create these other blades from.
Are there any traditional medical practices in the world that use obsidian as a cutting tool?
Yeah, well, some surgeons still use it today, still use obsidian, absolutely. But obviously the most well-known place where obsidian was used was in amongst the Maya and the Aztecs. And they used obsidian for things like auto-sacrifice, cutting yourself to offer your blood to the gods. And obviously obsidian is an otherworldly substance because it comes from fire. It was seen to have an otherworldly origin, and various traditions, even in places like the Carpathian Mountains, it was seen to come from heaven itself. So because it was seen to come from heaven itself, it was seen as a good means of communication with otherworldly entities. So, and we will see later in the Mayan and the Mexican section an Aztec obsidian mirror, which is very, very magical, and we'll see that. Right.